What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Monday, October 18th. We got some Monday night football. It's going to be a little mystery Monday night. Spooky season, right? It's Halloween-ish. Joining me. Let's find out what Sully's going to be for Halloween. What's up, Sully? Joining me to break down the Monday Night Football show, Tyler Sullivan. Sully, what do you, I don't, because there's this weird void where you don't really care. Like you're doing adult Halloween is my question, right? Like you're Halloween's still fun for you. Halloween's fun for me, but just in a different way now.
Yeah, see, I'm actually teetering on your type of fun Halloween. So I have a house now, so I'm
Oh, you have. So you're in that weird
first,
space where kids come to your house.
Yeah, so this is
and
the
you
first
don't
time
really know how to. You're like, here's some Kit Kats, small children.
So we're excited about it just because we have a dead end street, so we think it's gonna be kind of cool. We had a very intense discussion of do we want to be the king size candy bar house, because if you do it once, you get that reputation forever. And now we have to keep doing it. So it's just one of those things where I don't know.
Look at this. This is the maniac who tore apart. I was telling you before the show, George has entered the chat. Look at this dog's eyes. I mean, what are we doing here?
When they rip through the trash, how can you get mad for too long?
Yeah. He's come up to rip through some stuff. He like George, like Robbie, my dog, like Robbie, my son, have realized that when I'm have earphones on and I'm yelling at a microphone in shorts and a button-up shirt, that is the ultimate leverage time to get whatever they want, because I am at I'm the most vulnerable that I will be throughout the course of the day. But
yes, it's okay. It's okay. I'm dog sitting too. I got a beast next to me, so it's all right.
George is now going to eat a Snickers, apparently.
Well, that's good. It's the trick or treat season, I guess.
yeah. I guess it's like apparently we've got Snickers at Halloween here. We're going to be Robbie is going to be in Among Us. Do you know about Among Us?
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah, aren't you hip if you know about Among Us?
Oh, yeah.
And he wants me to be in a full. I probably shouldn't tell the podcast listener this. He wants me to dress up in a full body a skeleton bodysuit.
Okay. All right.
Which, maybe 25-year-old me would have been fine with that, or even 35-year-old me. 40-year-old me is not doing it.
I never really, this is going to sound like I'm a curmudgeon. I never really loved dressing up for Halloween when I was a kid, because my parents would, and I'm wearing glasses now, but I don't need to wear glasses. I have LASIK, so I can, I do it just to really read. But
I thought you were like, I do it just to look smarter.
Well, not really, but sure, it does help. But when I was younger, I needed glasses all the time, and my parents would always buy me, masks and stuff, and they'd fog up. I'd be running around and be like, "This stinks. I can't even pay attention."
Oh yeah, so if you needed glasses and you couldn't really see, so you didn't. I didn't really love Halloween as a kid either. I guess I liked it better as an adult.
Better as an adult.
Early 20s, and then again later in your late 20s, early 30s. And now it's a magical time with the kid. You get to grab a beer, walk around the neighborhood, but it is. I'll tell you what. You know what sucks? People are like, shut up and talk about the freaking game. But the thing that sucks about Halloween now with kids is because it's going to be on Sunday night.
Yeah,
my son is going to eat 40 pounds of candy on Sunday night, and I'm going to be up in the office. I'm going to be up here, working. I'm working very hard up here. Thank you. And my wife is going to have to deal with a sugar-induced, insane person trying to get him to sleep and to school on Monday. So next Monday. Oh, 2 Mondays from now.
2 Mondays from now.
Yeah, 2 Mondays from now. I don't know why we're talking about.
You can start calling these the Halloween games. That's once you get to this part of October, they're all the Halloween games.
Yeah, if I got to listen to the Progressive Family every single Sunday, then you know what? It's the Halloween season. All right, let's get to this game. It is Bills and Titans. Pretty big AFC matchup, but the Buffalo Bills have descended upon Nashville. The fans have anyway. The videos on social media are wild to see. Bills fans everywhere packing bars, packing Titans bars, and the Bills are -6 at Tennessee, over under 53.5. The primary storyline in terms of this game right now, Sully, is that A.J. Brown was added on Sunday afternoon, or maybe was it before the 1 p.m. kickoffs? I know I'm playing against A.J. Brown in one fantasy league, and that he was it was like there was no way the owner, in fact the owner of the team is Heath Cummings, our a fantasy expert at cbssports.com, and there was no way Heath could have gotten AJ Brown out of his lineup because that was the time, like he had
I think it was in between. It was going into the 4 p.m. games. I believe that was where it was. It was out, in between the 1 p.m. games, kind of finishing up, going into that late
it wasn't
afternoon
like at
slate.
11:30 in the morning
Yeah,
or anything. It was in the afternoon where it was suddenly the Titans reported that AJ Brown is questionable with an illness, and I heard third hand that via like some Tennessee radio person, basically that they're essentially saying we're going to limit his snaps for this game, and so as a result, the odds haven't changed. The over under still 53.5. The spread is 6. But when we get to these props, it's gonna be difficult to talk about because it's more or less all the Tennessee pass catchers are off the board at Caesars. As far as the game itself goes, having done enough of these shows, Sully, with you over the past few weeks, I'm going to assume you're taking the Bills.
yes, taking the Bills here. I mean, come on now. I mean, it's
I
you
mean, me
got.
too.
I mean, you gotta love the spot there. And again, I even liked them even before all this AJ Brown stuff with the
Oh yeah.
illness. We thought that we were doing some research here. Obviously, he hasn't been that impactful this year. He's been dealing with some injuries. He had the double knee surgery thing over the course of the offseason. And there were reports that they were going to limited snaps because of the injuries more so than anything else. He even admitted that he might be on a limited snap count all the way into week 10 due to the injury. Obviously, the illness is another whole layer to all this. But again, when you're missing that type of a weapon in an offense, and again, you have Derrick Henry, you have Julio Jones, there are guys there, but clearly he is someone that can really make this passing game go. When you're going into a game with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills offense rolling the way they are, you're going to need all hands on deck. So to me, again, I love the Bills in this spot. Obviously, Bills Mafia will probably be down in Nashville getting after it pretty good on Broadway. So they'll have some sort of, not home field advantage, but
I don't think it's going to be a Tennessee.
You'll definitely see them represented well.
It'll be like when you go to an opposing like your rival's stadium and you hear like I think there's a decent chance we hear "Let's go Bills" or like Josh Allen has a huge game and it's like MVP.
Well, I'll tell you, I was at the Patriots Cowboys game yesterday, and there was the Dallas fans. Credit to them, they traveled well. You could hear a lot of Coop chants and all that stuff for Amari
Really?
Cooper. Like, yeah, it was they were really getting after it. So
Wow,
hey,
Cowboys fans everywhere
yeah.
across the country, huh? Who would have
Yeah.
thought that? Bandwagon
but
fan.
but for the Bills, quickly, just because we're talking about the road team and all of that, they are 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 road games. So they do not only travel well with their fans, but they do play well on the road as well.
I mean, it's a scary team. Like Buffalo is rolling right now.
Yeah.
If you look at Football Outsiders defense, they are number 1 coming into this week, and Football Outsiders doesn't update until I think Tuesday after the game. So this is not including week 6, but Buffalo's defense. So DVOA, for those that haven't listened to this podcast for very long, DVOA is negative. So the lower the number, the better your defense is. The number 3 team in DVOA, the Saints, coming into this week, negative 15.8. The number 2 team, negative 16.6. The number 1 team, Buffalo, negative 43.2. That is a enormous difference, Sully. Like it is, they were literally twice as good on defense as the next best team. And this isn't some fluke where the Bills magically figured something out and the defense got better. Their defense has been good for like the last 5 years, except with the exception of last year, which was just a weird season in general. The Bills defense didn't play well. It gave up a ton of yards. And then they come back and they draft Boogie Basham and they draft Gregory Rousseau and they get bigger on the defensive line. That was their plan this offseason. They do this every year. They come into the season with a plan. They go into the offseason with a plan to improve XX. And part of that was to be able to rush Patrick Mahomes with 4 guys and sit back in coverage. They're just really good, and they're not bad on offense either. Is the like this is a really good team. I don't see how you could. I mean, I know it's a Monday night game and it's a home game for the Titans, and they have a lot at stake, and they need this win because the Colts are sort of knocking on the door. I can't, especially after getting my doors blown in yesterday by all these underdogs not covering. I just have a hard time getting to the Titans here. If I was going to bet it, If I was going to bet against the spread, I would tease the Bills, I think. Maybe with the Broncos on Thursday.
Yeah.
You can make the Broncos, you can make the Broncos like plus 12. And the Bills will pick them, and the Bills just have to win.
Yeah.
And if my buddy Red does loves to do these same game teasers. If I'm teasing this, it's Bills in the over. I mean, I feel like a friggin' donkey. We say this every week, but I mean, I don't see how you can take the under or the Titans in this spot, knowing that AJ Brown just doesn't look. I mean, he's going to be limited. I mean, look, they don't have a ton on offense.
Yeah. Well, that's my biggest fear with taking the over there a little bit. Obviously, the Bills, we've seen them have, they can hang 40 on a weekly basis. That their offense, we know what they are. The Titans, we don't know what's going to happen. All of a sudden, if you're looking at a scenario where, Buffalo gets out to a 20-point lead in this game, that you're pretty much cutting the head off the snake in terms of Derrick Henry being the focal point of your offense. You kind of got to switch it up a little bit, start moving the ball through the air down the field. And if there's no A.J. Brown or a limited A.J. Brown, you're asking a lot of Julio Jones. You're asking a lot of Anthony Ferguson. You're asking a lot of Ryan Tannehill to really put these points on the board against the defense, as you've been pointing out, is very good this season. Number 1 in DVOA. So to me, that's probably a scenario where you see this trending under it. You could see it, almost would remind me of the Philadelphia Buccaneers game last week where, it looked like everything was going to start to, really bust open and hit the over. But all of a sudden things started to slow down later in the game and it just doesn't really mesh out well for them. Buffalo can continue to run the ball with Zach Moss, Devin Singletary. They can move the ball that way to kill clock. The only way that I could see Tennessee kind of remaining in this game again is it would have to be a dominating display from Derrick Henry that keeps Josh Allen off the field. That's the only way that you could see that maybe shaping out in favor of Tennessee there.
Yeah, and we'll get to the DFS stuff portion of the program after at the end of the show. It'll be on YouTube only, youtube.com/pick6. We fun stuff happening over there, by the way. Last night on the live stream recap, in which I appeared to lose my brain multiple times, we did give away a Brinson Sucks hat.
Ooh.
So that's exciting. Yes, one lucky podcast listener / watcher is going to get a very hat that currently graces my house that says Brinson Sucks on it because, why not? The Bills rank out as the 12th best offense in football. The Titans are just the 21st best offense. This may not surprise you. When you split it out in terms of how the Titans offense operates, they are 26th in the pass game, but 10th in the run game. That is the pathway. But to your point, I mean, there is, when you look at these football games, like the Jets beat the Rams last year, right? I mean, weird upsets happen in football all the time. The Titans are at home. They're being told by a lot of people that they can't win. So, I can't get there mentally right now, but there's definitely a pathway for the Titans to win. And you're right. I think it involves some fluke turnovers and a whole lot of Derrick Henry. So we'll talk about that when it comes to player props and DFS after we take a quick break. I don't feel like I gave a definitive pick there, so I'll just say that if I'm betting this, I'm probably like just taking the under and player props. I don't know that I want to get in front of the Bills. I mean, the Bills could beat the brakes off these guys.
That's the thing. And you look at quickly, if you look at the Bills this season, you were talking a lot about DVOA and stuff like that. But if you look at their, their overall, how much are they covering the spread by on average? It's 15 points. I mean, it's a remarkable number. And again, a lot of that was credit to their blowout over the Texans, where it was like 40-0. That obviously kind of changes things a little bit, but still, cover's a cover, and they are one of the best in the league right now. I think that they're 4-1 against the spread this season. I think that
Cowboys are undefeated against the spread.
Cowboys undefeated,
is maybe the best.
Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, the other thing about Buffalo that's a little scary if you're going to take the Titans. And I realize the sharp thing or whatever to do is probably to take the Titans in the points at home on Monday night. Buffalo throws early and often. They throw on early downs. They are aggressive down the field, and they're not afraid to hang one on you.
Yeah.
They were, again, they were smoking the Texans and kept scoring unnecessarily. Even Mitchell Trubisky got in on the action. It was unfair and mean. I don't think they'll do that to the Titans tonight, but I
I mean,
would at least
when
be
you can unleash the MVP, you have to do it, right?
the MVP. I love it. That's in WNBC. MVP. Your two private parts, Howard
Yep,
Stern.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, you got it. Pig vomit. Anywho, let's get to the player props. Josh Allen over 2.5 passing touchdowns plus 150. It's kind of a blind bet right there. As we mentioned, a lot of these receiving yards are not going to be up because AJ Brown questionable, and as a result, there's a trickle down effect on Julio Jones, Josh Reynolds. The only pass catcher. There's two pass catchers for the Titans in the receiving yards prop. We have Derrick Henry, who's total. This may be a career high for Derrick Henry. Set at 13.5, and Anthony Firkser at 24.5. Henry also set at 97.5 rushing yards, which is a pretty crazy number. Are there any props that stand out to you, Sully? Understanding for the podcast people that we don't have a full slate of props available to us.
Right. And I kind of want to go off of Tennessee real quick. I have a few bills that I want to highlight, but to me, I want to focus in on Ryan Tannehill here because I do think that it's going to move one way or another. We're going to get this thing whether it if AJ Brown's playing, the passing yard total might go up. If he's not playing, it's going to go down. I feel like attacking it right now. For me, I'm looking at the under on his passing yards. I think I had it at 236.5. To me, he's only gone over that number twice this season. He's going up against the number one number one defense in DVOA, like you said. To me, that one makes all the sense in the world to go under, especially if you're talking about no AJ Brown or a limited AJ Brown going up against a good defense. To me, that one I would like to go under on. And the other one, real quickly, the one I like the best with Ryan Tannehill is the under on his passing touchdowns at 1.5 because I believe he's only done it once this season. And if you're talking about Tennessee getting into the red area, what are they going to do? They're giving it to Derrick Henry 99% of the time. And if you have limited receivers around you, it only more emphasizes that you're going to give it to Derrick Henry. So to me, I'm taking the under on Tannehill's passing yards and under on his touchdown prop.
We don't have, I don't think on Caesars, you don't put carries on there, right?
Rushing attempts, yeah, they should have those.
How am I missing rushing attempts? I can't.
I do actually. I know they have one on Zach Moss.
I know what happened. I was searching for Derrick Henry and it didn't pop up. That's weird that they don't have. They have all the Derrick Henry props, but no Derrick Henry rushing attempts. Man, Zach Moss over 10.5 rushing attempts. That's a bet.
Yeah, love that.
If the Bills have a lead, he is getting to 11 rushing attempts. It's minus 135 to the over, but that line should be, I think, a lot higher. Yeah. I was going to suggest that Derrick Henry may be game script proof from a rushing attempt perspective, especially if AJ Brown is banged up, and that sort of similar to what we saw on Sunday Night Football, which was Alex Collins ran the football a ton, even when they were down 14-0. Right? They're not afraid to feed. The Seahawks aren't afraid to feed a running back with a deficit, and the Titans aren't either. They did that against the Seahawks actually when they were down big, and they gave the ball to Derrick Henry. So if you can find anything under, I don't know. I mean, what's the rushing attempt number going to be? Like 19.5?
I was going to say 19.5 probably is where it sits, right?
Yeah, anything under 20 is absolutely a take for rushing attempt for carries for Derrick Henry. We had that with Najee Harris last night. It was 19.5 coming to that game. It's like he's just going to carry the ball 20 plus times. I wouldn't get in the way of that 97.5. I'm not taking the over on 97.5. That's just
right. I mean, you're just really playing with fire there.
Yeah, just step away from it in terms of that prop. One, I do think you can viably take the over on Derrick Henry receiving yards though at 13.5. He's just been involved in the passing game a lot more than he was really the entirety of his career. I don't know if this is an Arthur Smith thing or what it is, but he's getting targets and he's catching balls, and you can 13.5 is a pretty high number for Derrick Henry, but we've seen him go 19, 55, 31, 20, 0 against Jacksonville, but they beat him 37-19, and they didn't need to involve him in the passing game. His catch rate is really high this year, and I don't know that the sports books have caught up necessarily to the involvement of Derrick Henry in that passing game.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, especially again, if they're limited in receiving weapons in this game, you need to get the ball into your playmakers' hands. And if you're in a game like against Buffalo, where we think that this, the Bills offense could get out to somewhat of a lead here, you might have to be forced into some passing situations where you can't exactly put the ball in Derrick Henry's hands, just handing it off to him. You might have to start incorporating him a little bit more into the passing game. So no, I can totally see a path to get there. To me, if we're looking at backfields, like we were alluding to earlier, Zach Moss to me over 10.5. He's done it three carries in this game. He's done it 3 straight games coming into this. He's going up against the 27th ranked run defense in DVOA in the Titans this year. Again, if the Bills get some sort of a lead, they're going to hand the ball off to Zach Moss. And not only, and he's obviously a part of this offense, but if you're talking about later in the game, second half, trying to kill clock, he's the guy that they're going to give it to in those situations.
Yeah, agreed completely. The over for Steph Diggs is 6.5 minus 150. That is, I love taking the over on Diggs in prime time in terms of receptions, but I don't think you can take that over.
I think for me, my favorite Bills receiver prop tonight is Emmanuel Sanders' longest reception, 22.5.
Okay.
We saw last week at a 35-yard touchdown, and Josh Allen is throwing to him in a way that we haven't seen Emmanuel Sanders be used, quite before throughout his career. He has an ADOT of 16. He's got 9 targets this season of 20 plus yards. He's caught 5 of them. Tennessee is allowing 8.4 yards per pass, which is the 5th worst in the NFL. To me, he's used in this way. The Bills like to push the ball down the field. He's starting to kind of feel himself in this offense. To me, I could see them connecting on a deep one, maybe multiple times in this game.
Yeah, I like that. And I don't mind Manny Sanders over 54.5 receiving yards as a whole. This guy's just a focal point of this offense at this stage of the game. And
you're starting to see him kind of take over from Cole Beasley too. He hasn't been as
yeah.
involved. He's starting to become that number 2.
Yeah. When you look at what the Bills want to do, it's like Diggs is obviously their alpha, but they're willing to shift some of the plays towards, or Josh Allen's more willing to look towards Manny Sanders. And I think he provides a different element to that offense in the sense that he can stretch a little bit vertically. He's a great possession guy. He's a reliable route runner, and it allows, with Gabe Davis and then they mix in McKenzie a little bit too, where they're sort of, that third option deep threat guy that can be a factor there. Devin Singletary is not being used as much as he was. Like Zach Moss is really taking this thing over, but over 8.5 receiving yards for Devin Singletary, man, that's just one catch for a guy out of the backfield that I think they'll get involved. At least, I mean, that's a low number. That's maybe, I think that's a target spot for me is what I'm saying, is that I think that they will target him. We've only seen 3 targets the last 3 weeks, but they've won 43-21, 40-0, and 38-20. They've been blowing teams out. So actually, you know what? Maybe that's a stay away if we think they're going to blow out Tennessee as well. Anything else that stands out to you?
I just think that they want to use Zach Moss. I mean, they clearly have brought him in. They want him to be that focal point into that backfield. They've tried it with Devin Singletary for the past few years.
Snaps are falling off a cliff in these blowout games.
And so I think that's what we're looking at here with Moss. Again, if this is one of those tightly contested games, maybe you start to get, use Singletary a little bit more. But if we're talking about a, pretty convincing win here by Buffalo, you have to look at Zach Moss to say he's going to obviously be involved early, but towards the later portions of this game, he's just going to get a ton of touches to kill clock. The only other one that I want to point to with the Bills is Josh Allen over on his rushing yards. I had it at 31.5 minus 110. He's gone over that 4 of his 5 games this season in Tennessee. They just gave up, 27 yards rushing to Trevor Lawrence. He's somewhat of a runner, but not as much as Josh Allen. To me, that one I could totally see him going over this game tonight.
Yeah, and Allen, they did for the first time really all year. They incorporated his rushing against Kansas City in prime time as a way to sort of attack that Kansas City defense and throw the Chiefs off their game. He had 11 designed runs, I believe, in that game. That's by far the most on the season. Had 9 in week 1, but 5, 4, and 6 the other 3 weeks. So yeah, primetime game. Maybe they come out and use that as sort of a initial, let's put Tennessee's defense on their heels, force them to think about Josh as a runner and make them, come up and spread themselves a little bit horizontally. And you can really disrupt a defense by doing that. So I am fine with that as well. I think, and like I said, we'll get to it in a second with the DFS, but man, I was just looking at those snap counts for Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. I mean, it's I don't know what you would call the graph, but it's an inverse movement for both of those two guys. Moss is just seeing his snap count skyrocket, and Devin Singletary is seeing his drop and crater, and it's partially game script, I would think. I mean, the Bills lost in week 1 to the Steelers, right? And have since gone 35-0, 43-21, 40-0, and 38-20. That week 1 game feels like 50 billion years ago, and it's just not reflective at all. I think it still lingers a little bit in our heads, right?
Yeah.
But they have been stomping people since that week 1 loss.
And again, we talk, I said earlier, like, oh, well, they did beat, Houston for another, but they're beating like Kansas City. They're beating good teams this year too. It's not like they're beating up on bad opponents. They're taking care of business on the road at Arrowhead Stadium. Not easy places to go and win football games, not only win football games and win them convincingly. So no, this team has really been blowing the doors off people as of late.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not good defenses. Like Miami looks like they might be terrible. Yeah. Washington's defense is awful. Houston is garbage. Kansas City's defense stinks, but they smoked the Chiefs. I mean, that's bottom line. You know what? It doesn't matter.
More impressive defensively that game than offensively.
For sure. But I'm saying it doesn't matter because they have Tennessee. Tennessee's a bad defense in week 6. Then they have a bye, so there's no look ahead here. They come out of their bye in week 8 with Miami again. Miami's gonna be reeling a desperate, in a corner situation, and then they're
Miami's in a tough spot. They don't even have a bye going after this London game, so Miami is going to really be kind of limping into this the next few weeks here. I'm
not sure that the Bills, man, that Bills over 10.5 that I took in the offseason is
good.
I'm feeling pretty good about it. I mean, Miami, Jacksonville. Wait, are you kidding? Have you seen the schedule?
This is it's
they have the Titans, then they're bye, then the Dolphins, Jaguars, and Jets. Those are literally the 3 worst teams in football.
It's kind of a gimme schedule.
And then they have the Colts, Saints, and Pats before the Week 14 matchup against the Bucs. Holy Moses. They close with the Panthers, Pats, Falcons, and Jets. There's 2 losable games left on the schedule.
I've been watching this Patriots team all year. They're not going to lose any of those games.
They're not. The Patriots are. Oh my God, the Bills are waltzing to this 1 seed.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. No, again, when you talk about it, this is what was so jarring about Kansas City too, starting off so poor. You have all of these teams in the AFC West starting out pretty hot. Again, Denver's cooled off, and the Chargers look like they cooled off against the Ravens. But you had an opportunity to really kind of solidify yourself in this 1 seed. Now, if you're Kansas City, you can't even think about it right now. Buffalo clearly has this in hand. The only other team maybe that you're thinking about is Baltimore. I think Baltimore's
5-1.
5-1. So
yeah.
But they're playing the Bengals this week. That's not a gimme game.
Baltimore has a much tougher schedule down the road than Buffalo.
No, this is clearly Buffalo's conference to lose, the number 1 seed to lose.
Yeah, and I really thought too that I was really last week, and I've mentioned this several times, but I was really impressed with Josh Allen's post game when he came out and said, "Yeah, look, he came out and said before being asked a question, you guys are going to make more out of this win than we are. We understand that we beat the snot out of Kansas City, but you don't get the playoffs with 1 win. It's a long season, man. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if I probably did a terrible job with the props this week. I'll put. I think I've got Moss carries over, Henry receiving yards over. I like your Josh Allen. What do we say the rush yards was?
Yeah, I had it at 31.5. I don't know what it is currently at Caesars, but it's earlier.
Lot.
It's a lot, but he's gone over 4 out of 5 this year. I just feel like he is starting to or not starting. They just use him in that role.
Yeah. 25.5 pass completions for him is probably a good number. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a tough game because of the AJ Brown situation.
Yeah.
Like we would have a lot more numbers out there to deal with if we knew about AJ Brown. So yeah, my 2 props we're both on the Moss carries over.
Yeah.
And I really like the Derrick Henry receiving yards over as options. You can go with you can certainly go with Zach Moss over rushing yards too.
Yeah.
if you think
Okay.
this is gonna be a blowout, he will go over 42.5, and the Titans won't be able to stop him.
Yep. My favorite one is the Sanders. Again, longest reception over 22.5. It's just that one feels a little
Oh,
low
yeah.
too. Again, that one
Yeah.
to me is my favorite out of the ones that I picked. The other thing that we want to point out quickly, it's tough, but we go over it every week. First touchdown
Yep.
prop. The only
Look
one
at
that
you, Sully, driving the podcast as I
I got
as
you.
I
Don't worry.
fall asleep on my
I'm here
microphone.
for you. I know you had a long night. The only one that I really am paying a little bit of attention to is Dawson Knox plus 10-1. That's the only one that I really again maybe Ryan Tannehill at plus
Yep.
2300. But those two outside of that, I don't really love anything else. Knox, I mean, we really don't have to say too much. He's basically scored a touchdown every single game he's played this year. He's like the Robert Tunyon of 2021. Like that's just who he is. Josh Allen
Moss
looks
at
at him.
9-1 is not terrible.
No,
If you
no,
I
that's
mean
not bad.
I prefer starting over 10-1 almost 90% of the time, but, this is all right, so in a game that's with the Bills are 6-point road favorites, Moss should be more like 7-1 based on where Derrick Henry's 5-1. Like, I mean, I think that if the Bills defense is as good as we think it is, and my point being is I think Moss is going to get a ton of goal line carries. I'll take Allen. I hate 9-1, but Allen and Moss at 9-1 because that's who they're going to go. If the Bills get in the red zone and near the goal line, that's who they'll go with, and you're at least getting a little bit of value. Knox, I mean, 10-1. I remember the days when he was like 25-1. Well, halcyon days of week one. He is involved a lot more as a pass catcher. I agree with you on Tannehill at 23. Gabe Davis is probably a stab at 29. And I think that's probably it on the list that they have at Caesars.
Yeah,
So
that's the only ones I'm really paying attention to.
yeah, it feels like we're on sort of a run. We had a few where there were quarterbacks rushing in there. If you got quarterbacks with rushing equity like Tannehill and Josh Allen, and they're 10-1, 9-1, 10-1 or better, you probably need to invest in them. Yeah, I like those. I think that's a good call. It's not a great market again. Julio Jones and AJ Brown aren't on, like, they should be pushing Dawson Knox down to
Exactly.
further down the board, and they're not on this list. So maybe wait and find out what AJ Brown's deal is. If he came up at like 20-1 for whatever reason, that would be interesting, but I'm sure he won't. Long story short of this podcast, AJ Brown is making this a pain in our asses is the bottom line. All right. So that is the Monday Night Football preview show. We will have Sully and I will go over some DFS stuff on youtube.com/pick6. Go and check that out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll keep this rolling for DFS in a second. Okay. So Monday Night Showdown, Josh Allen, 19-2 as the top captain option. No surprise there. Derek, 19-2 is insane, Sully.
It's a crazy number.
By the way, I mentioned on the recap show last night, but second half Steelers Seahawks was not great for me, DFS wise.
That's not
I was
great.
winning like $40,000 at halftime. I was first in the I was first. I had the Steelers onslaught with no out, and then
I wish I had the self-control not to just constantly look at it and watch me basically start off hot and just lose all of the potential money as the game goes on.
Correct. Like, I'd rather just, you're 100% right. Like, I would just rather let's see the end of the game. Like, fast forward me to 3 minutes left in the game, and I'll deal with the sweat and the pain of losing the sweat. But like and it wasn't like I was first, because I had the two defenses as captains. I had
no. You unlocked the right things.
If that game had ended at halftime, I had the and I was tied with three other people. Whatever. Anyway, Allen at 19-2, very expensive at the captain spot. Derrick Henry 17-1. Right, Tannehill 14-7. Stephon Diggs 14-4. Manny Sanders 12-9. The questionable AJ Brown 11-7. I don't think you can use him. Good Lord, Dawson Knox is a 5-digit. What are we doing? He's at a $10,000, $11,400 captain, Dawson Knox. This guy's, the ascension here is insane. Zach Moss at 10-5 rounds out the 5-digit captain options. Julio Jones at 9-9, and then you get to the Jake Fromms of the world at 9,000. What are you thinking when you look at this captain situation?
Really, two names come out to me. And again, I'd love to make Josh Allen or Derrick Henry or Ryan Tannehill my captains, but they're just a little too expensive for me to really have a sound roster going forward. The ones that I really like, I mean, Zach Moss to me at 10-5 makes a lot of
That's what I just clicked. Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Going to carry the ball a ton, and you're really banking on that second half for him to really just lay it on thick with touches, piling up yards, possibly getting into the end zone. To me, he makes a ton of sense. The other one, kind of a dark horse, Emmanuel Sanders. I just love him tonight. I think he's someone that I don't think will have a really high ownership. I think if someone's going to go with a pass catcher in terms of the Bills, they might go Stephon Diggs, pay up a little bit. They might go down. They might see, if AJ Brown's available, maybe they'll go with him, to me, or Dawson Knox. To me, Emmanuel Sanders is kind of sneaky where I think he'll be involved pretty heavily and could be a nice captain.
Yeah, I like Manny Sanders. All right, so again, the 53.5 high total. I believe that if there's a couple interesting ways to attack this. And I like Zach Moss as a captain for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you go Zach Moss as a captain, you can fairly easily. Oh man, this is kind of interesting. So I'm trying to look at Isaiah McKenzie because how is he too? I guess he just isn't involved nearly as much as he was last year. You do have kick returns. If you were to house one, that would be a bonus. Man, he's just not seeing any targets at all. He's such a fun player. They use him
Yeah.
in these interesting spots. If you go Moss, I sort of feel like you need to go Bill's onslaught is the phrase that they like to use in the DFS world. So you could go Zach Moss as your captain, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Tyler Bass, and then Derrick Henry.
Don't hate that.
So you go 5-1, Bill's onslaught, and the Titans just still keep feeding Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
With the idea being that if this game gets out of hand, the Titans may decide to not use AJ Brown a ton. You could clearly go with Julio Jones or someone else, Ryan Tannehill, if you wanted.
The one name that I think we should pay a little bit of attention to, just because I think that there's a little bit of I feel like there might be some low ownership here. Again, he's relatively cheap, so maybe not. But Jeremy McNichols, the kind of the pass catching back for Tennessee, somebody that could possibly, he's involved in the passing game. And if you're telling me that AJ Brown is not going to be involved, they're going to start utilizing him a little bit more. Ryan Tannehill has already thrown to him. If you're talking about a scenario where Buffalo is going to be, where Tennessee's going to be trailing to Buffalo, you're going to have to start passing the ball a lot. As much as we say Derrick Henry's getting more involved in the passing game, McNichols is someone to pay attention to, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The Derrick Henry captain thing, I was looking at because there was I'm not entirely sure if it occurred, but there was a captain situation with the Seahawks. As I mentioned, it was like Alex Collins is the captain, and then on five Steelers was at one point winning the Millie Maker, I believe. That's a pretty. If you think about it, you go Steelers onslaught, right? And then the captain is your running back for the team that's getting slaughtered.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense in the world. The only places you would want to do that are Tennessee and Seattle, really, because those coaches are willing to feed that running back the rock. So I'm trying to figure out how you could go Henry. The problem is if you go Henry and then try and jam Buffalo guys in, you have to give up on either Diggs or Manny Sanders, and you essentially have to go with two. I don't know that you can get it in there without because if you go Henry, Allen, Diggs, Moss, I guess you could do Henry, Allen, Sanders, Moss, Tyler Bass, and there's just nobody really left in there. McKenzie again at 200, but he's just not seeing any targets. Going Henry as a captain is just a tough spot to do it. You can't really get what you want.
If you're going to try to go, I think that route, if you're talking about Bills onslaught, it's, just a dominating display from Buffalo. Maybe you throw in the defense at the captain spot, because then I just cooked this one up. You have Bills defense as your captain, Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, Diggs, Moss, and Henry. You're kind of still having that same, you still have that same attack. you're just spreading it around a little bit differently. Again, you're really banking on Buffalo to shut things down, but like we've been saying, they have done that to a degree this season. I mean, again, number one in DVOA, you could see that as a possible one. Again, Derrick Henry, as you were saying, they're still going to they're still going to run him, even if they're in, have to throw it situations to get us back in this game. They're still going to get their fair share of Derrick Henry carries. They're going to put the ball in his hands. So to me, that one, if you're trying to go the four, or the four Bills, one Tennessee Titan, and Henry would obviously be that guy to me, or 5-1.
The onslaught, the 5-1.
That to me would make the most sense.
Yeah, the other one you could do too. That's a great point. Bills defense is a good call there. You could also go with Tyler Bass as because I know one of the things about the defense is in a game where, as good as the Bills defense has been, in a game where maybe it's 21-0 Bills at halftime, just hypothetically, the Titans are going to move the ball. The Bills are going to pull back. We saw that with the Steelers, and the Steelers nearly lost the game in overtime, and they were only up 14-0. But it's tough for a defense to hold up. You could see garbage time stats ruin you as a defense. So Tyler Bass would work as well. You could go Bass as captain, Allen, Davis, Diggs, Moss. That is just an onslaught of Buffalo scoring, and then Derrick Henry in that spot for the Titans. You could also, if you wanted to differentiate yourself, plug Ryan Tannehill as the flex in there, and potentially go. You have 3,700 left over even with that onslaught lineup, and plug in Manny Sanders instead of Moss. Gosh, Lee, man, if you go Bass or Bills defense as your captain, you can pretty much do whatever you want. That's the only way to get the studs and the stars in this game. The two guys who I think will probably go severely obviously under-owned, or the three guys, I guess, as a captain. I think Diggs might fly under the radar as a captain a little bit, right?
Maybe? I like it. I could because he hasn't had that really breakout performance, right? Like, he hasn't been.
No.
I remember listening to the Fantasy Football Today guys, and they were like, "Hey, if you can buy low on Stephon Diggs, do it." Like, we're in that kind of conversation with him right now.
Yeah, he had his best game of the year 2 weeks ago at Houston. 11 targets, 7 catches, 114 yards. He only has 1 touchdown on the season. He's only cracked 100 yards once this year. Two catches, 69 yards.
He's really hovered around 60-ish yards receiving.
My wife is sending me motivational messages. Thank you, honey. Sure. Yeah, I mean, man, Diggs might be due for. It's a primetime game. He didn't get to eat against the Chiefs. The Bills lost to the Titans last year, by the way. The Titans have no pass defense. It might be a Diggs evening where they just come out slinging the ball. If you go Diggs at captain, I think you probably need Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. Or as Scott Hansen likes to say, Josh Allen. You then, in theory, have Zach Moss pounding the rock down low. Pounding the rock down low. What am I talking about? You have Zach Moss running the football a ton at the end of the game. And you could add Bills defense if you wanted to go Tannehill, or you could go Derrick Henry in that spot and get Tyler Bass, and then come back with like a Josh Reynolds or a Michael Pruitt, depending on what happens with A.J. Brown. So Diggs is definitely a viable captain option here.
Yeah.
If we wanted to do that. And then, of course, I mean, there's going to be people who play A.J. Brown as captain. You got to have some huevos to do it, but if he even if he's limited and he catches 2 touchdowns,
even if we get the the pregame report, he's going to gut through. He's going to be on a limited snap count. You're talking when you hear limited snap count again, you got to have some cojones to do it, but that is low ownership from the captain spot right there. That is what that says.
I had a sort of a galaxy brain thing a few minutes ago where I was thinking, is it you could do a Buffalo onslaught and include Mitchell Trubisky.
That is
it's galaxy brain. I realize
that is galaxy brain.
But the idea is somebody who's so badly. Trubisky plays the whole fourth quarter.
that is someone who was burned last night on Sunday Night Football in the second half. That is the ramblings of somebody who did not have a good Sunday Night Football.
That's right. That is what that is. But I mean, like we've
I love
seen
it,
this
though.
before. Where no, I mean, you're not wrong. We've seen this before, where it's like, you know, like Marcus Mariota came in. I'm not saying like it's an injury. I'm saying it's like Josh Allen. They pull him in the third quarter, and Trubisky's coming in. Someone will play Trubisky as a captain at some point tonight, and could win because he's sick. You know, he's what's he for a captain? Maybe he's too expensive for captain. $9,000. That's pretty pricey for a flyer. I will have Sully a $10, $15, whatever it is, millionaire maker lineup with Trubisky as a captain. I can promise you that.
I love it. I love
All
it.
right, this is probably apologies. Poor producer Chris is like, what is happening at this juncture of this? Yeah, this is a weird game. Should be a fun game.
Excited.
And before we go, Sully, we got to do our patented near Millie Maker miss. What if the game goes the way that it's? What if the game goes the opposite way that we think it's going to
lineup?
go?
That's all we have to call it. The Costanza lineup.
The Costanza lineup. Yeah, that's a great. That's What's our? I need to write down our Costanza lineup because it usually flirts with being pretty good.
It's unbelievable. So okay,
what do you think?
So it has to It would have to be the AJ Brown captain. Is that what we? That's probably kind of what we've been saying.
What about Julio captain?
I literally just as I was about to click it, I was about to do that.
This is really the only portion of the DFS program that anybody needs to listen to. It's like
for some reason, this is where it comes from. But yeah, okay, let's do Julio as the captain because again, maybe.
What we're doing here, if you're still listening, is that we are trying to say what is the outcome of this game that is completely and wildly unpredictable. That, like we said from the outset, it's like, I just can't take the Titans. Well, you know what? The Titans play football too, man. Like Mark Godfrey once said, you got to guard us too, pal. If the Titans were to come out and jump all over the Bills and somehow have this great offensive game plan, or even just play good defense, what is the bizarre, what is the bizarre scenario? Julio is captain, we think?
So I have an interesting one. I just made this one up. So Julio is the captain, and AJ Brown is also in my lineup as well. I got both Titans receivers, and you're just banking on, and this is fading Derrick Henry. This is fading the running game for Tennessee. Sure. You have the two receivers as the focal point of a Tennessee offense that gets out in front of the Bills, and then it forces Josh Allen to start throwing the football even more. Yep. You have Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, and Dawson Knox. That all fits.
So you have Julio, AJ Brown.
Yep. Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, Diggs, Knox.
Now, the one downside of that is I guess in this case, it's just a shootout. Yeah. And if it's a shootout like this, maybe Derrick Henry's not heavily involved somehow. Is that a possible scenario where Derrick Henry's
not out of the realm of possibility?
Well, and it's also, oh my God, look at his freaking last 4 games. I mean, how do you get away from this guy? It's insane. He's got his per 16 game average over the last 4 games is 2,328 rushing yards. Like if he's averaging 145 and a half rushing yards per game on 31 carries over the last 4 weeks. They're just giving him the ball. My Lord. So what if we did that? What if we do Julio as the captain?
Okay.
Add Henry in there. Add Tannehill. Add Diggs. Getting a little crazy with the Ferkser, maybe?
I don't hate that.
Oh, look at that. Chris has got it up. Julio, Tannehill, Diggs, Derrick Henry. Trying to find if I want to get Ferkser's kind of expensive. Manny Sanders, can you fit? You did Manny Sanders and then slap in a $200 Michael or $600 Michael Pruitt.
You could give me you could throw in Ferkser and give me Devin Singletary. Again, maybe it's a little bit more of a passing down game. Maybe he's used a little bit more as a receiver. So you could throw in Ferkser.
You're right. In the effed up game script, you almost need to have Singletary in there because in theory the Bills are not winning and they're bringing out their passing downs guy in Singletary, who won't be highly owned or highly rostered. So Julio, Tannehill, Henry. I don't think you can get away with the 5-1 Tennessee Buffalo. That just doesn't seem feasible.
No, you can fit Diggs and Singletary in there.
Oh, all right. So let's get rid of Sanders and Pruitt, Chris, and let's do Singletary. And then that leaves us. Oh, then you just go. You can go Tyler Bass.
Yeah. You can open yourself up to Ferkser. You can open yourself up
you
to
got plenty of cash left.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't even know if that lineup makes sense, but it's probably going to win $1 million.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Going all right. It's gonna come close.
All right. Let's call the dogs off on this podcast. Sorry, this is not my best. Yeah, whatever. Sully carried the day as he does sometimes on this show. Let's hit some props. Let's win $1 million with this weird ass Julio Jones lineup, and talk to you on Thursday, buddy.